their air shoes.
So Sonic Prime came out, and I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. This is easily the best Sonic show ever, without being the best Sonic show ever. Sonic Boom. I'm basically saying that this show is in second place. If anything, I went into this show not really expecting much, cause throughout all the stuff that was going on with Sonic in 2022, I was not focused on this show at all. We already got our movie, we already got our origins, we got Frontiers, and I got so invested into Frontiers, I forgot this was happening at the end of the year. By the time that I started watching the show had already been out, and all I was hearing from everybody is that it was good. All my homies were telling me that it was good. All I heard is that it was the second best Sonic show, and I mean, is it though? I mean, there's no competition, so but my expectations were a little high going into this show, and everybody was right. It's a pretty good Sonic show. I was especially shocked by this because this was made by the same people behind Mega Man Fully Charged. And that show is awful. But off the jump, I really have to praise this show for its animation. The animation is really good, and it's actually really slow to see Squash and Stretch be used effectively in Sonic again. The animation can be a little off at times, but you can tell that they used their best animation for the best moments. I mean, from the trailers that we saw alone, we knew that the animation was going to be good, so there's actually really not much to say from an animation standpoint. It's also really nice to see Sonic in a more colorful environment again. It's been a while, especially with Movie 2 and Frontiers having realistic environments, so that's really cool. What's also really cool is the characterization and the writing. Once again, just like Frontiers and Sonic Movie 2, this show has good characterization, something that the Sonic series has needed for a bit now. There's also a fresh new voice cast, and I think these voices are actually really fitting for the characters. Devin Mack Sonic sounds like a fusion of Roger Craig and Ryan Drummond. It's really bizarre.
And then Sonic says, another day saved, thanks to Sonic and Tails. These rogue robots are more like pests than anything. Please. Paradox Prism.
I mean, I'm not tripping, right? That sounds like both Ryan and Roger. It's not just Devin Mack. Everybody does a good job voicing the characters on this show. They all sound so familiar, yet sounding so fresh and new at the same time. It's really cool. Other than episode 1, all of the episodes are around 20 to 25 minutes in length, just like how a usual story-based kid show is. And speaking of which, what about that story? Quick little spoiler warning here, as I'm going to be talking about specific moments that happen throughout the show, so you can skip to the timestamp here if you just want to hear my overall thoughts. The story of Sonic Prime is basically Sonic using the Paradox Prism to travel through different universes, unintentionally. Sonic goes to 3 different universes throughout the show. He goes to New York City, Boss Cage Maze, and No Place. New York City definitely gets the most attention in comparison to the other 2 universes, but there's also so much to like about New York City that you kind of do not mind it. For me personally, it's like the return to that dystopian look that Sonic Sat AM had with the whole idea of Eggman taking over and the freedom fighters and stuff, but I think New York City also carries the 2 best characters in this show, Rusty Rose and Nine. There are other variants of characters that I also like, but I'll get to them a little bit later. Let's actually start off with Nine because we meet him first. Nine is basically Tails with a huge chip on his shoulder and an actual backbone. Nine shares a similar backstory to Tails, where he gets bullied with his 2 tails, obviously, but instead of Sonic coming to save him, Nine actually goes out there to fend for himself, which I gotta say is a bit of a glow up story, no lie. People always wanted Tails to stick up for himself in the normal games or whatever, but seeing him stick up for himself this hard is something that I'm all for. And clearly, in comparison to the other members of the Freedom Fighters and Sonic himself, he has different goals, which gives him a lot of depth, and I actually can't wait to see him again in the later seasons or later episodes. Depends on how they handle this show. Next up in this world is Rusty Rose, which is my favorite variant in this show. She's basically this rogue, somewhat emotionless version of Amy. I say somewhat emotionless, but I won't say too much. She also works for the Chaos Council, which is basically this group of 5 Eggmans. Eggmans? Eggmen? I don't know. I will say that my favorite one is Dr. Deep. He has a killer mustache. Other variations that I love to give a mention to is Black Rose, Dread, and I'll throw in Catfish. As you can probably tell, I really like the pirate episode, which is easily my favorite episode of the show, by the way, just so you know. One thing I'll give this show though is that although that the multiversal variant characters are the main point, I do wish that we could have saw a bit more of like the normal variations of the cast, like Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge. We do get to see them throughout the earlier episodes and in flashbacks, but I wish we could have saw them just a bit more. I guess the one exception of this is Shadow the Hedgehog, because it's Shadow the Hedgehog. He's like the most popular Sonic character, so I can see why that they're trying to like really set up something with him, which leads to the fact that this show ends on a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger that I wish was just a little bit better. But overall, Sonic Prime is a really good show. I'm really excited to see how the next episodes go, whether it's in season 2 or season 1 or however they're doing it. We just know that there's going to be 24 episodes of this show and we've gotten 8 so far. The most likely thing to happen is that there's going to be 2 seasons with 8 episodes each. Also, another spoiler warning, but also not really a spoiler warning. Apparently this show is canon to the games. I kind of wanted it to be its own thing, but we'll see how that turns out. IDW just got added to the Sonic universe, so we'll probably be just fine. But with that, thank you guys for watching me talk about Sonic Prime for 6 minutes long. And remember, if Netflix cancels this show for some reason, we riot their headquarters.